complacent on that. You understand what it takes to put in that type of performance week in and week out, and hopefully bring the same thing to Loudoun. And it's like the 5th time we've got.
Good morning, everyone. Meteorologist Tawana Andrew here. And I've been watching this storm. If you've been watching Sunrise so far this morning, I've been talking about this one storm sitting in portions of Hart County. And we now have a tornado warning embedded in this. So here's what we have going on as of this moment. For those of you in Hart County, we'll be watching those of you there because this tornado warning will go until 5 a.m. Central Time. So that will be 6 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll be watching this tornado warning. And I was keeping an eye on this a little bit earlier because I could see some of that rotation trying to happen in that area. So we'll be watching that very closely as the morning goes along. So let's just break down what we're dealing with right now in this area. You can see where you have, excuse me, a little bit there. Okay, where we see that have that dark green and that light green right next to each other. That is where we have that rotation going on across that part of Hart County. This is going to be stretching off towards the northeast, moving very, very quickly at 35 miles per hour. So right now, we have that severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado right over Munfordville. If you're in Munfordville, as of right now, this is one of those moments where you want to make sure that you are in your safe space. I'm going to step out of the way right now. Excuse me, so I can look a little bit more of some of that data, because what we're dealing with as of this moment, this tornado warning for those of you in Hart County, this is part of a thunderstorm that has been moving for those of you a little bit further through the southern parts of Hart County, quickly racing off towards the northeast. I did mention earlier this morning the chance of a split up tornado, and here we go. This is what we're going to be dealing with. So now we'll be watching this as it tracks off towards the northeast for those of you in the very southern portions of LaRue County. So we're talking south of Hodgenville and north of Greensburg. And as we continue throughout the morning, if this can hold on, it'll be tracking into northern portions of Taylor County and towards the Lebanon area. So this is going to be one of those storms that we have to watch very, very closely as the morning wears on. So one second, I'm going to read some of the stuff coming in right now from the National Weather Service. It has that potential for some small hail along with it as it moves through. It is moving right now northeast at 35 miles per hour. It is also capable of 60 plus mile per hour winds as it moves through these areas. So this is going to go, the severe thunderstorm warning for this particular storm goes until 5:45 a.m. Eastern Time, but the tornado warning, that red on your screen, that will go until 6 a.m. So I was even, as we were talking in the break with me and Olivia, I was watching this storm and the rotation with it, and it was a little bit concerning. So it's not entirely surprising to see that they have now put that tornado warning on that particular storm. So we'll be keeping an eye on it as the morning goes along. So here is that tornado warning once again for those of you in central parts of Hart County. We're watching this moving off towards the northeast very quickly. I'm going to do my best to zoom in so you can see a little bit more about what we're going to be dealing with in terms of this particular tornado warning, if the graphics want to work with me right now. Here we go. So we'll try to zoom in so we can see a little bit better about what's going on in this area. Here we go. So now it wants to work. It is moving off towards the northeast rather quickly. So for those of you from Hinesdale to Linwood to Jonesville, this is where we're seeing some of that rotation now showing up in that particular area. We're going to be watching very closely the heavy rain and some of that small hail to go along with it as well. So what we're looking at in terms of this moving pretty quickly, we're seeing that showing up anywhere from that rotation right now is near the Hinesdale area over towards Linwood. For those of you in Jonesville, I need you in your safe space as of right now. This is tracking pretty quickly at 35 miles per hour. So we'll be watching as it moves further and further to the northeast. So for those of you towards Magnolia, Hammondville, Mount Sherman, if you're not in your safe space already, you need to be there right now. Not a lot of lightning with these storms. It's really the torrential rainfall that we're watching with this. Because remember, we're keeping an eye on this area of low pressure. And if you look very closely, you can see all of that massive rotation happening above our heads with that low as it now moves into portions of wave country. We'll be keeping an eye on some more of the heavier rainfall. And that is happening right now for those of you in portions of southern Indiana towards the Louisville Metro. We even have one crash showing up right now By the way, for those of you watching traveling 65 southbound, coming out of Floyd County, Clark County as well, we're seeing that heavier rain in that particular area. And we have 65 southbound coming off of the Kennedy Bridge. The main thoroughfare is blocked off, but for those of you who usually take that Jefferson Street bypass, that is still open. But as of right now, it's mainly this tornado warning that we are watching across the region. As of right now, as it races off towards the northeast. Once again, it goes until 6 a.m. Eastern time, 5 a.m. Central time. And this is radar indicated. We haven't gotten any reports of anything actually touching the ground as of right now, which is certainly some good news. But if you're in this area, anywhere from Munfordville and I'd say into northern Greene County, I need you in your safe space as of right now, as we continue to keep an eye on this as the morning goes along. So it's really been about the heavy rain so far. I was talking about that potential for some rotation, especially as that low moved in this morning. And this is exactly what we're seeing as of right now with this particular storm system. So this is one of those mornings where we were watching for a spin up. And unfortunately, it looks like we got one. No word on any if our newsroom can, if they're listening, if we can call into Greene County, into Hart County, and see if there's any report of any damage, that would be great to see what's actually going on and match up what we're dealing with on the radar as well for this morning. So let's take a closer look at what we're dealing with in this particular area, because this is quickly moving off towards the northeast. So for those of you towards Northtown, towards Forestville, you're in the clear. For those of you who maybe have anybody traveling anywhere from Bonnieville down towards Horse Cave on 65, just make sure you give them that heads up. Don't travel that way. Hold off for a little bit longer. Let this storm pass on by and then go, because the worst thing that you want is to drive directly into a rain-wrapped tornado. And that could be potentially an issue for those of you traveling in these areas. So we'll be keeping an eye on this gradually as the morning goes along. So it's certainly one of those situations where we're watching things very closely. On 31, this is where we're also keeping an eye on this area, because this is where that rotation is trying to move as of right now. So in between Magnolia and Hardeeville. If you know anybody who typically heads out for work at this time of the morning, in between that area, takes 31, call them, let them know, make sure that they hold off getting to their safe spaces before this continues to move through. So we're now seeing some of the heaviest rain towards Glen Lily and Jonesville, and watching for some of that rotation right there as well. So let's just break down what we're seeing in terms of that rotation to see if we're seeing any improvements in it as well, as it continues to track pretty quickly at 35 miles per hour off towards the northeast. Not really the craziest of speeds, because we have certainly seen a lot crazier speeds. Even with that last batch of severe weather we had, those are moving at like 50 miles per hour. So not as impressive, but certainly watching that rotation there. And it's quite clear to see that red and green there on your screen. This is moving directly into the Glen Lily area, and for those of you south of Jonesville. So if you're in between that Glen Lily, I hope I'm saying that right, please correct me if I'm not, Glen Lily and Jonesville area, this is where we're watching that rotation going on right now. No word of it's actually reaching the ground as of this moment, but we're going to continue to watch it. It's one storm, the only severe thunderstorm, the only tornado warning that we have in our area as of right now, and we'll be keeping an eye on it as it moves off towards the northeast. So for those of you in northern Greene County, northern Taylor County, southern LaRue County, I need you to be in your safe spaces. The rest of us are just dealing with the rain as of this moment. We're going to continue to keep an eye on that as it continues to move through our area for this morning. Of course, it's mainly been the concern about the heavy rainfall and the impact that that can have for the morning hours, and then we'll talk about some scattered showers and thunderstorms as we get into later on this afternoon. But we are also watching that lightning, really starting to watch that lightning, more of those lightning counts going up with the storm south of Munfordville as well. So that's something else that we'll have to keep an eye on for southern Hart County, into central Greene County, and into portions of Taylor County as well. That tornado warning yet again. It is right now, for those of you in central Hart County is moving quickly off towards the northeast. It's south of Heminville, north of Horse Cave, racing to the northeast at 35 miles per hour. We don't know if this is actually touching the ground as of just yet, but it's something that we're going to continue to keep an eye on as the morning goes along. So let's just zoom back in so I can break down where we're seeing some of that rotation going on, where it's going to be going to, and who needs to be paying attention a little bit more to this. For the metro, by the way, the metro is just heavy rain. This is just for our southernmost counties for this morning. Anywhere between Magnolia and Hardeeville. This is where the heaviest rain, this is where the strongest winds, and more of that rotation is showing up as of right now. And we're going to continue to watch it closely as the morning goes along. If you're in Linwood, Canmer, Hudgens, towards Eve, you need to be in your safe space. By the way, for those of you in the Mount Sherman area, the Allendale area, and towards Bloyd as well, I need you to also be in your safe space. Anyone that you know that typically travels on 31 in this area, make sure that you give them that heads up, stay in your safe space, do not get on the road as of right now. We're also keeping an eye on those of you over towards Badger and Attila. If this can hold together, this will be racing your way too. So giving you that heads up as of right now, as we're continuing to keep an eye on this as it moves quickly off towards the north and northeast. So this is just one lonely severe thunderstorm, only tornado warning that we have as of this moment, as it's moving off towards the northeast, continuing to keep an eye on some of that rotation going on. So let's just look back and see what we have in terms of that rotation as of this moment. Not looking as impressive as it did earlier, not seeing as much lightning as I did earlier either, which is certainly some good news, but we'll be watching, of course, it as it continues to move off towards the north and northeast. This is all a part of that area of low pressure that continues to move through. And thankfully, after we get past about that 8 o'clock time frame this morning, in terms of severe weather, that pushes off towards our east. Keep in mind, we're not even outlooked with a marginal risk for our southernmost counties as of right now. So this is just one of those situations where we were keeping an eye on things, watching to see how things start to spin in the upper levels of the atmosphere, because especially when you have a low like this moving through, one or two of these spin-up tornadoes cannot be entirely ruled out. It was something that we're looking at, and it's something that we're keeping an eye on as of right now as well. So thankfully, this is not a widespread issue. It is just for those of you in Hart County and into portions of LaRue County, very southern LaRue County, and northern parts of Greene County that we're keeping close eye on things as of this moment. So we just have very favorable conditions since you've been a little bit drier. For those of you further to the south, that is what's helping to fuel a few of these stronger storms that we've been watching this morning. And it's something that has led to the rotation that we are dealing with as of right now. So let's zoom back in terms of that rotation and see if things look a little bit better. So now, unfortunately, no, still seeing that solid couplet there moving towards the Linwood and Canmer area, and that's not the best of situations that we want to see. Now, here's the thing with the radar being this far out from parts of Hart County, we're seeing more of the upper levels of the atmosphere, and this clicker right here in my other hand is where the ground is. So we know there's rotation happening above our heads. The question is it actually touching the ground? That is not something that is confirmed as of right now. Unfortunately, this storm, because it's just parallel to that warm front going along with the low, it could stay on the ground. It could continue to rotate for a while as well. So for those of you in parts of northern Taylor County, in parts of Marion County, while you are just dealing with heavy rain as of right now, I need you to be just paying attention, be on your P's and Q's in case this is able to hold on with that strength and continue to move into your area. But as of right now, we're really just focused in on the Canmer, Linwood area, just to the south of Jonesville, still to the north of Horse Cave, where we have that rotation still going on as of this moment. Once again, this is the only severe thunderstorm. This is the only tornado warning that we have going going on as of this moment. Really, for the majority of us, we're just talking about heavy rainfall. That on its own can be impactful. We've already seen one crash this morning, unfortunately, when that heavier rainfall moved into the metro. Thankfully, that has now cleared. So 65 southbound coming off of the Kennedy is now open. So good news for those of you further to the north. But we're still watching that ability for some of that rotation going on and whether or not that can create a tornado for those of you mainly south of the parkways. Towards E-Town, towards Litchfield, you're mainly talking about very heavy rain in that area as well. But for that tornado warning, it's really for those in northeastern portions of Hart County. So Munfordville, you're actually in the clear as of right now. We're watching areas south of Hammondville, so I wouldn't be surprised if they started to really just chip off the southern edge of this tornado warning as we head over the next 10 minutes or so. But overall, in terms of what we're dealing with this particular tornado warning, we have that warm front that is sitting just to its south. It's moving parallel to the front, so it has the potential to remain pretty sustained with that rotation. We haven't gotten any reports of any actual damage so far this morning, so we're going to be watching that. But we are keeping an eye on a little bit more of what's going on for those of you towards the Magnolia area as of right now. So let me just zoom in on my area of concern for this moment. For those of you basically from Magnolia to Hudgens, this is where that rotation will start to move. Right now it's in between Jonesville and Linwood. So for those of you in Magnolia and Hudgens and over towards Eve, I need you in your safe space. Even for those of you a little bit closer to Somerville, Allendale, Wards, you need to also be in your safe space. And as I mentioned, yes, they cut off the southern portion of that tornado warning. So that is happening as expected. It is continuing to move off towards the northeast. It's a little bit slower as of right now. It is slowed down to 30 miles per hour. We'll be continuing to watch the heavy rain along with this because torrential rainfall for everyone in wave country was our main concern. We see anywhere from 1.5 inches to 2 inches of rain in some locations. Some of the heavier rainfall will be in storms like these as the morning goes along because it's just got a little bit more energy to them. We're also going to watch some small hail possible with this. So along with the tornado, we are going to keep an eye on the small hail threat within this storm, especially for those of you anywhere from Magnolia down towards Linwood. On top of that, even if there's not a tornado actually on the ground, you can see 60+ mile per hour winds as well as it races off towards the northeast at 30 miles per hour. So we're keeping an eye on that rotation, which has looked pretty solid as of so far this morning for those of you really towards that Jonesville area. So Bonnieville, by the way, and Munfordville, just giving you a heads up, you are in the clear, you're good to go. You still got some heavy rain though in that area. We're watching a little bit of hail, just very small hail as of this moment in that particular region as well for those of you right along 31. And yeah, watching that couplet right there, right over Linwood. So if you're in Linwood, I really hope you're in that safe space as of right now. Hudgens, I need you there as of this moment. This is going to be, sometimes this is a little bit delayed with the radar. So we could see that couplet already moving in between that Linwood and Hudgens area. So I need you, excuse me, if you're in those spots, to be in your safe place. Same thing for those of you in Eve as well. Now, for those of you into the northern portions of Greene County, you should also be in your safe space as of right now. So we are watching this continuing to race off towards the northeast. Here's the thing with this thunderstorm. There's not a lot of lightning with it either. So that's usually one of those things that we keep an eye on to really pay attention to the strength of some of these storms. But we just got that low moving through, and that is just pushing enough rotation in our atmosphere as of this moment to create a situation like this, unfortunately. So we're going to keep an eye on whether or not we have a little bit of debris trying to show up on the radar with this. As of right now, not seeing anything very impressive with that, which is good news. That's something we want to hear. We're not hearing any reports of any damage so far. I'm sure our newsroom is continuing to try to get a little bit more information on this as well as the morning progresses. So this is just one thunderstorm with all the rain that is in our area as of right now. Going to be keeping an eye on some more of that heavy rain towards the E-Town region as well. And for those of you all the way up into southern Indiana, it's just that heavy rain for you as of right now. Keep an eye on the further north you are, the lower your chance for any of the stronger storms, any of that hail or anything like that. We're really just concerned about areas along and south of the parkways this morning because of that low, because of that front, a little bit closer to you. And that is why we're dealing with the situation that we are seeing, unfortunately, as of right now. So this is quickly pushing into very southern portions of Hart County and into very northern portions of Greene County. So, very southern portions of LaRue County and very northern portions of Greene County. So it wouldn't surprise me if they trim this off a little bit more as well for this morning. Going to zoom right back in so we can see a little bit more about what we could be dealing with in this potential area. Looking very closely for those of you near Mount Sherman towards Hudgens for some of the heaviest rain, for some of the strongest winds, and that rotation going on. For those of you in Linwood, Pikeview, you should already be in your safe space. Hudgens, I need you there right now. Wards, also same thing for those of you there. We have been watching the heaviest rainfall further to the south, further to the north, in portions of southern Indiana, but now we have all that rotation going on for those of you further to the south, just because you're a little bit closer to that low that is spinning through portions of Kentucky. So what we're going to be keeping an eye on this morning will be a little bit more of that heavy rain, a little bit more of that wind trying to push through these areas. Right along 1079 is where we're seeing some more of that happening. So overall, yeah, we're keeping an eye on some of that rotation going on right there for those of you in parts of Hart County and into southern LaRue and northern Greene counties going on as of this moment. This is the only severe thunderstorm warning, the only tornado warning that we have happening as of right now, which is good news. But of course, for those of you further to the south, as long as this tornado warning is going on, I will stay with you. I am required to do that by law, by the way, for those of you who would like to know about other stuff. Unfortunately, for you, I'm going to be staying with everyone else to make sure that they are all able to stay safe. I'm going to be watching what's happening for those of you up into the E-Town area as well, seeing a bit of really strong winds with that thunderstorm moving through the E-Town region. This is going to be pushing towards Boston and Scuffletown and Roanoke as well, and New Haven. So we'll watch that strong wind with that this morning. That's something I just noticed with some of those storms moving through there. So I do not want to discount some of that heavy wind moving through parts of Hardin County either, because straight line winds on their own can cause enough concern. So straight line winds, and we're watching this cluster of wind, this couplet that looks to be a potential tornado, moving now into portions of northern Greene County. So if you're in Powder Mill, if you're in Hudgens, if you're in Lobb, I need you in your safe space right now. Anyone right along 569, anyone again in the 566 area, this is where I need you to be in your safe space. If you're towards Allendale, Bloyd, I need you in your safe space as of right now, as we're watching that rotation quickly racing off towards the northeast. This has slowed down just a bit. It was moving at 35 miles per hour. It's now moving a little bit more at 30 miles per hour. We are continuing to watch how quickly this can race off towards the northeast and move towards your region. But of course, where you see that, really, I'm going to circle this here so you guys a little bit further to the north can keep an eye on this as well. Where you see that little cluster, that wall of red compared to the green moving through portions of Hardin County, this is where we're also watching that potential for some pretty strong winds embedded in those thunderstorms. Nothing severe as of right now, but certainly can make travel in those areas a little bit more difficult. Not the best of situations to see, not the best of situations to deal with on a morning like this, but this is what we have going on. And I'm just going to take a wider look at everything. So the severe thunderstorm warning that was with this has been canceled. So we're watching that, but we're still keeping an eye on the tornado warning that goes until 6 a.m. Eastern time. Notice the majority of wave country is just dealing with the rain. But we have that rotation showing up on the radar as of right now for those of you in now northern Greene County, and this is why this solo tornado warning is currently ongoing. So this is just what we're looking at. Some strong wind gusts embedded in some of those storms towards Hardin County. Some of that will be moving into portions of Nelson County as well. And just got word from our newsroom that we've gotten no reports out of Greene County so far. If you guys are listening, if you can check back in with Hart County, especially towards that Munfordville area, if you can see if they got any reports there. Check with KSB as well. They might be the best way to find out what's going on in terms of that. But yes, so let's talk a little bit more about what we're seeing for those of you in portions of southern LaRue County and parts of northern Greene County, because this is where I'm seeing some of that rotation going on a little bit more. As of right now, this is where I'm seeing some of the heaviest rainfall moving into as of right now. But notice not a lot of lightning. So this is one of those situations where we're just keeping an eye on that spin going on in the atmosphere to start off our Friday. Not the best of ways you want to start the weekend, but here's what we got going on. So you can see right where that red and basically at this point blue couplet, that those colors are right next to each other. That is where we're seeing the wind going away and towards the radar right next to each other, and for that indicates spin in the atmosphere to us, and that is why we're concerned about that potential for a tornado in this particular area. So once again, for those of you towards Glen Lily, you're in the clear. Magnolia, this is south of you. Eve, this is north of you. We are watching everywhere in between as well for that wind continuing to rotate through. So we could see some small hail with this as well as it continues to march off towards the northeast, now at 30 miles per hour. So it doesn't really give me a lot of faith that it's slowing down a little bit, but it certainly could be sustained in terms of how long this stays on the radar. So we'll see if they extend this tornado warning a little bit longer, especially since it is still a pretty decent couplet showing up there. As if I just put the radar back a little bit more for you so you can kind of see, you can see that consistent couplet of red and green right next to each other. That shows me that it's maintaining its strength now as it's moving into the northern portions of Greene County. So this is something that we are going to continue to watch, and I'm going to stay with you with until the end of this tornado warning. I will do this for any part of wave country, not just for this part, but for everyone. I am continuing to watch it. I'm going to take a wider look at what we're dealing with as of right now, because yes, we have, of course, what's going on with that tornado warning for those of you now mainly into northern parts of Greene County, but everyone else is seeing some rain. Nothing severe other than this one tornado warning. It's just the rain that has been the main concern for the morning, and we're seeing some gusty winds also now showing up with that thunderstorm pushing through Hardin County, excuse me, and into Nelson County. But of course, continuing to watch this one tornado warning that continues to move through now most of Hart County. You're in the clear, but for those of you, let me zoom in to just break down exactly what we're dealing with. And for those of you, basically anywhere from 31 to the west in Hart County, you're in the clear. It's the very northeastern portions of the county that we're still focused in on, with that rotation still going on as of this moment. So we're watching the heaviest rain. We're watching more of that lightning continuing to show up with this. And of course, the rotation at the upper levels of the atmosphere, that's what's a little bit more concerning with this too. So for those of you near Hibernia, Allendale, I need you in your safe spaces as of this moment, because this is where we're seeing some of that rotation still going on. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more so I can get some of the roads for you. So Eve Road, Curry Road, for those of you traveling anywhere near John Goff Road, D. Kidd Road, Etna Furnace Highway, Durrett Road, Holly Grove Church Road, J. Cantrell Road. These are all of the locations where the rotation is moving through. If you live in these areas, I need you to be in your safe space. Lobb, Allendale, getting there right now. We're watching this moving towards you. I'm trying to give you as much heads up as I can as it moves towards your area. For those of you in Bloyd, this is not quite to your area just yet, but I'm giving you that heads up so you can keep this in mind as we head over the next half an hour to see if this is able to sustain itself as it pushes off towards the northeast. So let's look at that rotation one more time to see what we have going on in terms of this. And yes, so for those of you now in the parts of Hart County, you're basically in the clear because this is now moving out of Hart County. It's now northern Greene County that is the concern as this continues to push off towards the northeast. So anywhere north of Hudgens, north of Lobb, that is where we're seeing some more of that rotation showing up. Per our newsroom, we are not seeing any damage. We haven't gotten any reports of damage in Hart County, so that is very good news for this. But we are continuing to watch as well LaRue County, keeping an eye on you as well. And so far, not getting any reports of any damage in southern LaRue County, which is also certainly some good news. But as of right now, it looks like we are going to be watching this cluster of wind, this rotation happening for those of you in Greene County. By the way, for those of you turning on the TVs, it's 5:53 on our Friday morning, and we have one lonely tornado warning, and that is now mainly focused in on those of you in Greene County, northern Greene County. I wouldn't be surprised within the next couple of minutes if they just trimmed this tornado warning a little bit more or even extended it further into northern Taylor County. So we'll be keeping an eye basically in this area right here. So south of Hodgenville, south of Howardstown, towards the Wards Attila area, this is where the storm will continue to track as we continue through this morning. So we're going to be watching that. It has had a lot of heavy rain with it. It has had a decent amount of rotation with it as well. Still, the tornado warning is expected to end in 6 minutes. As of this moment, we'll see if the National Weather Service extends this a little bit more. So we're going to be, as of right now, it looks like the National Weather Service says they will be holding off on another a downstream tornado warning and watching for another scan or two to see how it goes. Hopefully this continues to weaken a little bit. It doesn't look as impressive as it did about 10 minutes ago, which is certainly some good news, but unfortunately still there. And with any rotation, especially some substantial rotation like this, we're gonna stay with it. So for those of you in Hart County, giving you that heads up now, you are in the clear. We are now focused in on northern Greene County, and for those of you in northern portions of Taylor County. So this is where this rotation will continue to track. For those of you in southern portions of Marion County, I'm going to keep an eye on you. If this is able to hold on a little bit longer, then this will be moving towards your area. Keep in mind that it may not show as much rotation as it pushes towards parts of Marion County, but it still has that potential for the small hail. It still has potential for, of course, the strong winds, and strong winds on their own can do enough damage to be impactful. So while we're keeping an eye on the tornado warning as of right now, I'm not discounting some stronger winds, still holding on for those of you further to the northeast either. So here's what we have going on as of this moment. It looks like they have added in that severe thunderstorm warning to account. As I mentioned, it's not looking as impressive with some of that rotation, but we still have to account for the strong wind gusts possible within this and the rotation that will be with this storm. So they have now, it looks like now the National Weather Service is going to switch over to a severe thunderstorm warning, but keep that tornado possible tag on it, which makes sense. Wind speeds near 60 miles per hour possible, still watching that small hail possible with this. And now this severe thunderstorm warning will go until 6:30 a.m. So we'll be keeping an eye on this as it races off to the northeast. So that tornado warning still has 3 minutes on it. So as long as that 3 minutes is there, I'm going to stay with it. Of course, I'm just going to take another wide look for everybody who is just tuning in. The alarms just went off and you're just like, what is going on? Well, we have an area of low pressure moving through this morning, and because of it, we have had quite a bit of rain move through and take over wave country. And with that, we've also been watching a bit of rotation happening for parts of Greene and right now Greene County, and this is where that tornado warning goes for another 3 minutes. We have a severe thunderstorm warning for those of you northeast of that. The rest of us just talking about the rain as of right now. So yeah, we're going to continue to keep an eye on this, and I will stay with this tornado warning until it is over because everyone's lives matter. So we're going to be watching this until it's over because I want to make sure everyone is as safe as possible. That's what's most important to me. So for those of you in Hart County, once again, you're in the clear. You got some light to moderate rain going on. That's all you got to deal with as of this moment. It's really focused in on areas north of Greensburg for the particular moment where we're seeing some of that rotation going on still. It's not as impressive as what it was earlier, so that is certainly some good news, but it's still something that is there. So I'm going to stay with it. I'm going to watch it. So just giving you a heads up for those of you near Wards, south of Wards, south of Mount Sherman, this is where some of the heaviest rain, this is where more of that wind and that rotation going on. So still, even with a severe thunderstorm warning, I don't want you to discount that because straight line winds on their own can cause significant damage. We could still see 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts as well with this system as it pushes off towards the northeast now. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. So this tornado warning will be allowed to expire, which is certainly some good news for those of you in portions of northern Greene County. However, we are going to be watching those of you anywhere from Allendale to Bloyd and up towards Badger for some of those strong winds, some of that small hail possible, because that, of course, can still make for not the best of Friday morning. So for Bloyd, Badger, Attila, you need to be paying attention to this storm as it moves into your area. For those of you in White Rose, Willowtown, and even towards Raywick, you need to be paying attention to this storm too. St. Mary, giving you a heads up on that. Everywhere south of Loretto is where we're watching as well for those of you in Marion County. So there's a lot happening with this morning. There's a lot happening in terms of this storm system as it pushes on by. And even if I just want to show you this so you can see the kind of rotation that we have going on in the atmosphere. As of right now, we're continuing to watch a little bit more of that rotation as that low tracks through our region. And if I put this in play mode, you can actually see that spin there happening. So we'll be watching this very closely now that that tornado warning has been allowed to expire. As soon as it ends and it pops off of our map, then we will go to commercial break and we'll get back into sunrise at 6 a.m. So it's really just that morning rain, the heavy rain for the majority of us, that has been the main concern. And now that we have that tornado warning that is off the map, we still have that one severe thunderstorm warning for those of you in Greene, LaRue, Marion, and Taylor counties. Keep in mind, this still can produce some 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. It still can produce some small hail, and I will be watching it throughout the rest of sunrise. So as of right now, with the tornado warning done, we're going to go to commercial break so I can grab a little drink of water, and then we'll be right back with sunrise. So stay with us. I'll give you an update on what's happening in terms of our forecast for the rest of the day in just a few minutes. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
With Alert Day coverage now, this is Wave News.
Good morning. It's now 6:03 on your Friday morning. Thanks for sticking with us here on Sunrise. I'm Olivia Russell with meteorologist Tawana Andrew. You've been busy tracking all this severe weather coming through here. Is your heart rate down yet?
It is currently at 122 per my Fitbit.
Right, yeah,
which is down, so that's an improvement.
Yeah, right. I mean, you are so busy this morning. I mean, so much stuff popping up with tornado warnings.
And here we go again, another one. I had a feeling they were going to do this, but we're back at it. So at least my heart rate is down. We have that tornado warning that has now been triggered once again for those of you in parts of northern Taylor County, and this will stretch into Marion County. This goes until 6:30 this morning. So here we go. Let's just dive into what we got going on. Most of us just dealing with the rain. That is it. But we're going to keep this alert day. We have triggered that alert day. We'll go for basically the next hour as we watch this batch of thunderstorms for those of you further to the south moving on through. So we're continuing to keep an eye on this right here. This cluster, this thunderstorm right here has been consistently rotating as it's moved off towards the northeast. It's been traveling at a decent clip, now back up to 35 miles per hour. So we've been seeing the speed of it wavering just a bit as it's moved off towards the north and northeast. But here's what we are dealing with. For those of you in very northern portions of Taylor County, up towards Lebanon, you are now underneath that tornado warning. Goes until 6:30 a.m. Eastern time. We could also see some small hail. As the storm has passed through portions of Hart County, very southern portions of LaRue County and northern Greene County so far, we haven't gotten any reports of any damage, which is very good news. But keep in mind, in a situation like this, we still rather be safe than sorry, and this is why that the National Weather Service has a tornado warning in place for those of you in, once again, very northern portions of Taylor County. This goes into Marion County as well, and we'll be keeping an eye on those of you in portions of Washington County in Kentucky too. So this is going to be one of those situations where we're going to watch that rotation going on a little bit more, and let me show you where that rotation is as of this moment, because we're going to continue to keep an eye on that spin happening. Keep in mind, in situations like this, the radar basically shoots up into the atmosphere, so it's seeing what's happening at the upper levels of the atmosphere in terms of that spin, and so far we haven't seen it actually touching the ground just yet, which has been good news so far to start off the day, but it still has that potential to dip down and touch the ground at points, which is why that tornado warning is ongoing yet again. So we had one earlier, they dropped it at 6 a.m. and now they have reissued yet another tornado warning for those of you further to the south of the Parkway. So quite clear as to why they did that. When you see that little couplet where you have that red and green showing up on your screen right next to each other, it indicates to us that you have wind going to and away from the radar at the same time right next to each other, and that shows spin going on in the atmosphere. And that's the potential for a tornado. So for those of you in Attila, I need you in your safe space as of this moment. Keep in mind, if you're all the way towards Lebanon, in between Attila and Lebanon, you need to be in your safe space right now, as well as we continue to watch more of that rotation, more of that heavy rain, and that potential for some additional strong wind gusts near 60 miles per hour, even outside of that tornado threat. Keep in mind, this is a quick moving storm, not the fastest we've seen, but still moving at a decent clip at 35 miles per hour. So it is racing along. If you know anyone who typically travels to work at this time of the morning, give them that heads up right now. If they're north of Campbellsville, near Attila, moving towards Lebanon, if they're typically in this area, they typically travel along 68. Just give them that heads up that this is moving their way and they need to be in their safe space as of right now. Let's zoom in a little bit more so I can show you where those areas of concern are as of right now. So here's what we got going on. They have trimmed back this tornado warning just a little bit there, so nothing surprising as of this moment. We're also keeping an eye on the Badger area. This is where more of that rotation is showing up right now. For those of you towards Willowtown as well, this is where we're seeing that rotation quickly moving towards you too. So they're going to continue this tornado warning a little bit more. By the way, for those of you in Hart County, you were in that tornado warning earlier. You're in the clear now. For those of you in Greene County, you're in the clear now. We're just watching the very northern fringes of Taylor County and for the really central portions of Marion County. Anywhere all the way up from Attila to Raywick, you need to be in your safe space. If you travel right now along 462, this is just one of those spots where you don't want to be traveling, because keep in mind, in addition to that rotation, we have the heavy rain. So if you're trying to see it from your front porch, you can't, because of that heavy rain that's potentially wrapped around that tornado. And it's just a reminder that in any situation, it's just best to go straight to your safe space. That could either be the lowest level of your house if you have a basement. If you do not have a basement, an interior room with no windows. So the center of your home as much as possible with no windows. If you live in an apartment complex and you're on the second, third floor, make friends with the neighbors off towards the first floor, because this is where you should be on a morning like this. So we're continuing to watch everything going on across our entire region, mainly in the form of that moderate to heavy rain that could slow down your morning commute. But the main concern continues to be that rotation going on with this. With the velocity still showing up, with that rotation showing up, they're continuing to keep an eye on this tornado warning. They have now added in a severe thunderstorm warning to go along with it. So with that, they rather be safe in a situation like this. Even though the storm hasn't had any reports of damage so far, we want to make sure everyone is as safe as possible. So we're watching the Badger area, Raywick, up towards Newmarket and Lebanon regions for that potential for some of that rotation, some of that damage moving your way. So these are the spots where you need to be in your safe place for this Friday morning. Let's look again at their rotation to show you exactly why this tornado warning remains in place, or as I should say, back in place for those of you in northern Taylor County. So this is moving pretty quickly. So Badger, this is, I mentioned you need to be in your safe space as of right now as it moves through your area. It is quickly pushing off towards the northeast. So for those of you in that very small portion of LaRue County that stretches just to the north of Taylor County, you also need to be in your safe space. And for those of you in the very southwestern portions of Marion County, you also need to be in that lower level of your home, whether it's that basement, whether it's bathroom, whether it's a closet. You want to make sure that you are as safe as possible as this moves on through. In addition to that tornado potential with this storm, we cannot rule out the 60-mile-per-hour winds. We cannot rule out the small hail to go along with all of this. This is why there's also a severe thunderstorm warning on top of the tornado warning that is currently ongoing that goes until 6:30 a.m. Notice that we have, yes, that tornado warning, but for those of you further to the north, you're really just talking about rain as of right now. Let me just take a wider view to what's going on. Yes, we have the severe thunderstorm warning and that tornado warning, but for the rest of us, it's really just moderate to heavy rain that continues to fall, and that is why we've seen a couple of issues on the roads so far for those of you along and north of the parkways. Now, since we have that rotation happening with the low moving through, you can even clearly see that. If you look there on the radar, you can see that just spinning around the low. For those of you a little bit closer to that warm front, this is where we're watching a little bit more of that rotation possible, a little bit more of that enhancement possible with that front as well, and the low right in your area. And so for those of you along and south of the parkways, this is why you have been our concern, but potential for a spin up or two. But overall, the majority of wave country is just dealing with the rain. For those of you further to the south, though, of the parkways, you have just been one of those areas that I've been watching very closely this morning. And because of that spin we have in the atmosphere, because of that front nearby, we have that tornado warning ongoing. It goes until 6:30 a.m. and I will stay with you for every minute that we have this tornado warning, because I want to make sure every single part of our coverage area is safe, and especially for those of you there. So let's talk a little bit more about what we're dealing with for those of you from Badger to Raywick over toward Newmarket. You have that rotation happening as of right now, and I know a newsroom is calling parts of northern Taylor County and going to be calling eventually as it moves into parts of Marion County to see what they have in terms of damage. Thankfully, we haven't had any issues so far, any reports of any damage as well, but this is moving a little bit closer to a more populated area as well, so this is why this is a bit more of a concern. Let's look at the velocity. Yet again, you can see more of that rotation showing up. Not as impressive, but it's still there. For those of you just to the north of Badger and towards Maple and Attila, if you're not in your safe space yet, get there right now, please. I'd really appreciate that. If you know anybody who travels right along, let me zoom in for you. 462. If you live on Grover Thompson Road, or if you live near Price Hill Spur Road, if I think I'm reading that correctly, my contacts are getting a little dry there. If you live near Salt Lick Road, if you're in those areas in parts of southern LaRue County and into parts of Marion County, this is where we're watching closely. And yeah, you can still see that rotation going on right there. I will circle it for you so you can kind of get an idea of where I am looking. It's in this particular area towards Attila, Maple. This is where we have that rotation. It's not as tight as it was before, but it's certainly still there. And watching, of course, some of those stronger wind gusts out ahead of it as well. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that as the morning goes along. So with this storm has been moving pretty quickly, 35 miles per hour, racing off towards the northeast. For those of you in the Newmarket, for those of you in the Belltown area, St. Mary area, Raywick, I need you in your safe space right now because this is moving towards you. We're keeping an eye on those of you in Lebanon as well. You are right on the tail end of this tornado warning. And since this has been kind of one of those longer track systems, and since it can hold together, since it kind of has the help of that front nearby, I still want you to be paying attention to this for those of you in Lebanon. So it looks like they're going to continue this tornado warning a little bit longer as they have that rotation still showing up on the radar. Now it looks like for those of you in that Attila area, within the next 5 minutes, you will be in the clear, but I just really want to focus in on those parts now of Marion County. This is basically now into Marion County. For those of you anywhere from Raywick to St. Mary to Belltown, I'm giving you that heads up as of right now. If you typically travel along, this is 84 in parts of Marion County. I need you in your safe space. Let me zoom in a little bit more so I can show you some of the roadways involved in this. Robert Lee Road, for those of you who travel in parts of Pat Spalding Road, this is where we're seeing that rotation moving towards you. So this is a very quick moving thunderstorm with that potential for a tornado. We're still waiting to hear any reports of anything on the ground in terms of damage, and that's not something we've seen just yet, which is good. But still, we want to watch it just in case. So we're going to keep this tornado warning going until 6:30 a.m. So we got another 14 minutes on it. And we're watching the heavy rain for those of you further to the north as well. Keeping an eye on any issues across the rest of wave country. The only thing that I'm seeing is a crash on 65 South near Grade Lane, and that's off towards the side. So as of right now, the majority of our area is just dealing with the rain, some of that pretty heavy. But we are continuing to watch now those of you in Marion County, because that is where we have that tornado warning still ongoing. And of course, we also have a severe thunderstorm warning to go along with it as well to start off our Friday morning. Other than that, keep in mind for today, once we get rid of this widespread rain and these storms for this morning, we're just talking about some scattered showers and thunderstorms for the afternoon. And for the second half of the day, some of those can produce some heavy rain, some gusty winds as well as they move on by your area, even that potential for some small hail with some of those storms for later on this afternoon. But as of right now, with that rotation going on, we still have the tornado warning in place for those of you in Marion County. If you're just waking up, good morning. This is what we got going on. Anywhere from Raywick to St. Mary over towards Lebanon, you are now underneath a tornado warning that lasts until 6:30 a.m. Eastern time. In addition to that potential for a tornado, because we are seeing some long-standing rotation with this particular thunderstorm, we're also keeping an eye on 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and some small hail as it moves on by. So far, this tornado has been radar indicated. We have not gotten any reports of anything actually on the ground. Now you can see as we look at the velocity there, it's looking a little bit more spread out, and notice they have updated as well the severe thunderstorm warning to go along with it too. So they have canceled LaRue County out of it. They've taken LaRue County out of it, and they've taken Taylor County out of it. But for those of you still in the southwestern portions of Marion County, you remain underneath that severe thunderstorm warning and that tornado warning. So this is just something that we'll be watching as it races off towards the northeast. Probably we'll be seeing some sort of impact from this particular thunderstorm as it moves off towards portions of Washington County as well. So we'll see if it can hold together that long. But yeah, that is a little bit of a jump there. So here's what I'm seeing, and I'm going to talk with you through this as I'm looking at it on the radar right now. You can see the rotation not as impressive in this particular radar scan, but the newest one we just got in, you can see a lot more of that cluster of the reds and greens right there, right next to each other, which indicates to me that that rotation is still going on. It's still holding on as it moves just to the south of Raywick. So this is why the tornado warning is going to go for another 11 minutes, and we're going to be watching it as it races to the northeast. For those of you in St. Mary, for those of you north of Newmarket and towards Lebanon, I need you to be paying attention. I need you in your safe space as of right now, because this is where we are watching this moving. So anyone who typically travels along 68, 84, even 52 in Marion County, this is where you want to be making sure that you are staying weather aware, you have that safe space, you're in that safe space as of right now, just in case this moves through your area and impacts you as of this moment. Other than that, it's mainly about the heavy rain that continues to fall across the majority of our region. So overall, we're just continuing to keep an eye on this. The rest of wave country, mainly just talking about some gusty winds and some heavy rains. You can see right where we have that tornado warning going on, I have that circled, right? We're also watching some strong wind gusts with some of those storms showing up in parts of Hardin County and into parts of Nelson County as well, but nothing too substantial there. That is all still sub-severe, which is certainly some good news. For those of you just turning on the TV and waking up this morning, here's what we have going on as of this moment. We have that one tornado warning for those of you in Marion County. This is quickly pushing towards St. Mary and eventually towards the Lebanon area. Other than that, we are going to be continuing to watch very closely all of that rain falling across the majority of our region. It has been light to moderate rain so far for a lot of us, but we've also seen some pockets of that heavier rainfall as well showing up to start off the day. And I'm just going to quickly switch over so you can see how much rainfall we've seen. A lot of us have seen ½ an inch to an inch of rain so far. Keep in mind, we can see anywhere up to another inch of rain in some spots at best. So we'll be watching that very closely as the morning goes along. And thank you to the viewers who have been sending me information, for those of you who have been impacted by this storm. Regina, thank you for sending me that message. She mainly only saw heavy rain in Hudgens, didn't have a lot of strong wind, and did feel an air pressure difference, but to her, it did not seem like a tornado. For all the areas that I mentioned, including Allendale and Boyd, mainly just heavy rain is what they saw according to her. So thank you to Regina and everyone who's been sending in the messages and letting us know what they're seeing in their area. That is very important on a day like today, so we can get some of that ground truth to what we're seeing on the radar. So notice we're still watching that pocket of heavy rain along with it. Even this is not like a lot of torrential rainfall showing up with this particular thunderstorm, but there's just so much rotation showing up on the radar still. I'm going to switch over to that and circle it so you can see. This is now just to the east of Raywick, right along that, I think that is 426, excuse me, that dyslexia got me there. 426 is where we are continuing to watch that rotation tracking through. This is quickly moving towards the St. Mary area, and that means it will be tracking off towards the northwest of Lebanon. So anywhere from 49 to 52. So in between Loretto and Lebanon is where this rotation looks to move as we head within the next 20 to 30 minutes, and this is why that tornado warning remains in place. So it is moving off towards the northeast. It is moving pretty quickly at 35 miles per hour, and of course I'm watching it, the National Weather Service is watching it, and it looks like they are going to try to potentially look to see if they can cancel this tornado warning, but with the rotation I'm seeing on the radar, I don't think that is going to be super likely with what we have going on as of this moment. Even though the rain's not heavy, super heavy in this area, even though we're not seeing a whole lot of strong winds, it's still something that we want to make sure that we're paying attention to and keeping an eye on for your Friday morning. Not the best of ways to start a Friday, but here's what we got going on. By the way, for everybody else in wave country, it's more of that moderate to heavy rain going on as of right now, and this is the first batch of rainfall for today. This is the most widespread rain that we will see all day as well. So that's something to note, to keep in mind once we get into the afternoon. Excuse me, we're mainly going to be talking about some more of those scattered showers and thunderstorms, and even those can produce some gusty winds, a little bit of some heavy rain, and even some small hail for the second half of the day. But as of right now, it's just mainly widespread rain that is showing up, that is slowing things down on your morning commute. And we have this one lonely tornado warning continuing to push through portions of Marion County. So Marion, for those of you in Taylor County, once again, in Greene County, once again, you're in the clear. For those of you up into Washington County in Kentucky, I still want you to be paying attention to what's happening just off towards your southwest, especially if this is able to hold together, which it looks like it potentially can. It looks like they don't feel super comfortable letting that tornado warning go, the National Weather Service, and I don't feel super comfortable with them doing that either. So we're going to hold on and stay with this a little bit longer, just because it's moving into a little bit more of an area that's a little bit more populated. So we want to make sure everyone is able to stay as safe as possible. So they're going to let this tornado warning go for another 5 minutes and then see what happens a little bit more downstream. So there is a chance that they cancel the tornado warning, and if they see things continuing to intensify as they move further off towards the northeast, then they could issue another one. So we'll watch to see what happens over the next 5 minutes. As of right now, though, going to keep this tornado warning going for those of you in Marion County. We have been watching that potential for a little bit of hail. I haven't seen a whole lot of that showing up. So if you have seen that in your area, just make sure you send us a message if you can safely do so as it moves on by. But in terms of that hail in that area, let's just look at that together and see what's showing up on the radar there. Yeah, not seeing a whole lot showing up in that area, so that's a little bit good news there. But we're also still watching that rotation. That is the thing that has been decently impressive so far this morning, and it's the main reason, I should say, that we have that tornado warning ongoing, because you can still see that rotation going on there. It's not as compacted, I think that's the best word I can use there, as compacted as it was earlier, but we're watching that straight in between Loretto and Lebanon as of this moment. So this is why we have that tornado warning continuing to go through. Just heads up for those of you in Springfield, this is moving towards your area as well, so we'll be watching that pretty closely. We have, of course, watching really just a good chunk of Marion County. Notice not even a lot of like deep reds or yellows showing up on the screen in that particular area, because usually we see the heavier rainfall showing up with a thunderstorm like this. That's not really what we're getting as of this moment, but still that rotation on the radar. So we are going to continue to stay with it, going to continue to track it as it moves off towards the north and east. And looking a little bit more widespread in terms of any potential for severe weather, we have been watching areas south of the parkways. This is what we got going on. Just going to be keeping an eye over the next basically 45 minutes, those of you in Marion County and into Washington County, Kentucky, to see if this can hold on. And once we get past that, our severe threat really drops off and we look to be on the quieter side for the rest of the day. I'm going to just talk about what's happening a little bit further to the north as well. Anywhere from Frankfort to the Louisville Metro up towards Carrollton, getting in on some of that heavier rainfall as of this moment. And we're also watching some more of that rain pouring down in parts of southern Indiana up towards Bedford too. So a lot of us getting in on the rainfall to start off the day. And I'm just going to quickly break down what we're dealing with for the rest of the day. Notice widespread rain sticking around through lunch. And once we get into the afternoon and evening hours, those rain chances really start to drop off. So we'll be watching, of course, the widespread rain, not really severe threat, but widespread rain in the forecast for the morning hours. And then things start to calm down a little bit more as we get into the afternoon in terms of how many of us will be dealing with that rain. But of course, the tornado warning going until 6:30 a.m. Eastern time. So we still got another 2 minutes on this. We'll see if they hold on to that tornado warning. And it looks like they are going to let this expire, which is not entirely surprising, especially since that rotation not looking as impressive, but it's still there. So they're most likely going to keep at least a watch on it as it continues to move into parts of very southern Washington County as well. So for those of you in the St. Mary area, you're still watching some of those strong wind gusts moving towards you. Belltown as well, you're getting in on some of those stronger wind gusts. And we'll be keeping an eye on, once again, for those of you up towards Springfield, because this has been holding on consistently over the past hour and a half, and I wouldn't be surprised if it tried to impact your area as well. Seeing a lot of heavy rain in the Springfield area as of this moment. Going to continue to watch. Let's look at one more time at what we're seeing in terms of the velocity and that spin happening in the atmosphere for those of you further to the south. We're still seeing that. Yeah, it's a little bit more dispersed as of this moment, but still seeing some strong wind gusts. Notice where you have that red and green right next to each other, moving towards Springfield and just to the north of Lebanon. So it's still some rotation there. It's a little bit more broad as of this moment, though, and we are watching some more of that heavy rain still showing up in the Springfield area. So you're going to be keeping an eye on that. So it does look like they're going to allow this tornado warning to expire as we get towards 6:30. So we still have just 15 more seconds on it. So as this expires, we're going to go, as soon as it expires, we're going to go back to break. I'm going to jump and get a little bit more water, and then we'll get back hopefully into sunrise. But don't worry, for those of you in Springfield, I am still keeping an eye on this for you. And for everyone else in Wave Country, you're watching the heavy rain and the gusty wind. So now that tornado warning and the severe thunderstorm warning have been allowed to expire, we are going to go to a commercial break, and we'll be right back with sunrise. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Meteorologist Tawana Andrew here with a check of your forecast. Of course, we had a number of those severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings earlier this morning. Thankfully, we haven't actually gotten any reports of any damage in those spots, but still going to keep an eye on the heavy rain that's being impactful on its own for this morning. Looking into E-Town, you can see everything just looks soggy as we're starting off the day. As we're watching more rounds of this rain continuing to push through as the low moves through our area. You can even see that rotation showing up there, especially across portions of south central Kentucky. This is where we saw some of the strongest storms. So for those of you further to the north, you're just locked in with that moderate to heavy rainfall, with some of the heaviest rain right now in portions of Du Bois County and up towards Bedford. We now have a severe thunderstorm warning, and I think I have an idea of where it is going to be. Yes, for those of you in portions of Marion County and into Washington County in Kentucky, this is where we're seeing that, of course, severe thunderstorm warning in place. We're talking wind speeds near 60 miles per hour, some small hail, and of course they have as well that potential for a tornado with it as well. So they have a tornado possible tag on this as of right now. So a quick check of what's happening inside of this storm as of this moment, if it wants to work with me here. Let's try it. So we're going to keep an eye on that potential for a bit of rotation. For those of you a little bit closer to Texas is where we're seeing that trying to show up there, and towards Macville as well. So this is what we're going to be watching a little bit more closely, that potential for some stronger storms for those of you further to the south. We were always keeping an eye on that. And here's what we got going on this morning. Moderate to heavy rainfall anywhere from Frankfort up towards Carrollton and into the Louisville metro as well. For those of you further to the south, seeing some more pockets of that heavier rain showing up in parts of Hardin County. And of course, watching that severe thunderstorm warning, which is just the tail end of the storm that created that tornado warning that we're watching earlier this morning. So anywhere from south of Willisburg down towards Gravel Switch, we're keeping an eye on that area for some strong wind gusts, some of that hail, and of course the heavy rain. For those of you in Greene and Taylor counties, you're also a lot drier as of right now, with still some pockets of heavy rain showing up towards Adair County. This is all a part of the system that is moving through portions of the Ohio Valley. That is, by the way, the only severe thunderstorm warning across Kentucky as of right now. Temperatures south of that front in the low 60s. North of it, everybody's sitting in the 50s to start off the day. We'll continue to watch for rounds of the moderate to heavy rainfall throughout the morning and towards around the 10, 11 o'clock hour. Once we get closer to noon, notice the widespread rain moves out, but we still keep some of those scattered showers and thunderstorms across our region. As we approach the late afternoon and evening, this is when our rain chances really start to drop off pretty quickly, and we'll watch for any isolated showers, pretty light stuff that will try to move through overnight, but that's certainly not a widespread issue. But for today, we're going to be talking around another ½ inch to 1.5 inches of rainfall in some spots. Keep in mind, some of you have already seen near ½ inch to 1 inch of rain, and we're going to continue to watch for that. And it looks like we now have, here we go, another tornado warning in place. Let's just jump right to that. Yeah, I was expecting this and not too surprised by it. So we still have that one little section of Marion County included in this tornado warning, which goes until 7:15 a.m. It is part of the same storm that we have been watching all morning long. Thankfully, it is pushing pretty quickly at 35 miles per hour. So for those of you in the very eastern portions of Marion County, you have just about another 20 minutes for this to move out of your area, and then you're quiet, just watching rain for the rest of the day. So let's talk about what we're looking at in terms of some of that rotation. As of right now, for those of you in the very eastern portions of Marion County, I love that we just looked at this and now we have that tornado warning in place. So we're keeping an eye on some of the stronger wind gusts. Oh yeah, this looks a lot more impressive than it did earlier this morning. You see that south of Macville and pushing right along 150. This is where, just to the north of 150, that we're seeing some of the strongest wind gusts as of right now, and that spin going on as of this moment. So just zoom in a little bit more to that area of concern. We're continuing to keep an eye on areas off towards the east. This is east of Springfield, and watching this storm as it marches off towards the east as well as 35 miles per hour. So this is east of Texas, moving to the south of Deep Creek. You can clearly see that little couplet right there with that red and green right next to each other. So that's pretty decent rotation. The question is, does it reach the ground? So far this morning, we haven't gotten any reports of any damage. If you have damage in your area, please let us know. Some of you said in parts of Marion County that the wind really picked up. You heard that heavy rain pounding down, but overall not a whole lot with this as well in terms of damage so far, but we still got to keep an eye on it just in case, because we want to make sure everyone is staying as safe as possible. So we're watching this for the eastern portions of Marion County. Once it moves out of Marion County, and then we'll be quiet in terms of that regard for the rest of the morning. This is just this one storm that we are continuing to keep an eye on as it pushes through portions of wave country. We've watched a couple of these warnings go up and down throughout the morning as that rotation got strong, and then it weakened and it strengthened and it weakened. So it's been wavering back and forth so far to start off the day, and we're going to continue to keep an eye on any impacts that any of these storms can have as they move through. But we were always watching for that potential for some of these strong to severe thunderstorms trying to pop. For those of you further to the south end, that is exactly what we were dealing with this morning. So that's why we have the alert day going for basically the next 7 minutes, and we're going to continue to keep an eye on what's going on across our area. So let's just break down what we have in terms of the majority of wave country. It's mainly been about that moderate to heavy rainfall. We've had some gusty winds push through, and we've kept an eye on this one thunderstorm that has been tracking from portions of Hart County all the way through Greene, Taylor, LaRue counties, Marion counties, and now it is making its way out of Washington County in Kentucky. Once that moves out of Washington County, then we'll be on the quiet side for all of wave country. So this is just that last little bit that we have to keep an eye on as we're starting off your Friday morning. Notice most of us have been just fine, just been talking about the rain. But by the way, in terms of that rain in the metro, I'm looking at the map right now when I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 crashes, 2 of which are on 65 as of right now. So y'all please take it slow. Hydroplaning is a concern in a situation like this, so you just want to make sure that everyone is staying as safe as possible. I'm going to zoom right back in to this tornado warning that is still holding on for those of you in the very, and I mean very eastern parts of Marion County. As soon as they clip Marion, I should say Washington County, as soon as they take that out of our area, then we will be able to go back to the Today Show that will start in about 7 minutes. So I'm going to stay with this tornado warning as long as it's in our coverage area. We are watching this for those of you east of Springfield. So right in between Macville and Gravel Switch is where we have this tornado warning ongoing. Some heavy rain with this, keeping an eye on that potential for some small hail as well as that rotation continues to show up for those of you in very eastern portions of Washington and Marion County. So going to try to zoom in just a little bit more to see a closer look at where is being impacted by this. It's right along 150 south of Deep Creek that we have some of the heaviest rain, some of that stronger wind gusts, and also some of that rotation trying to show up as of this moment. We're going to watch a little bit more to see where that rotation is. The way it looks right now on the radar, that shows to me that it's mainly making its way out of Washington County right now, and yeah, we're seeing that pushing towards Deep Creek. This is where We're dealing with that as of this moment, and then now making its way. Oh, that does look a little bit more substantial than anything we've seen this morning. It's moving its way right through Deep Creek. So if you're in that area, I'm going to tell you right now, get in your safe space. I'm going to zoom or pan a little bit further to the east so we kind of see where this is going. For those of you with any friends in Boyle County, Mercer County, give them a heads up that this is moving their way as well. So this is going to be pushing towards the Perryville area, Nevada area as we head within the next 20 minutes or so. But it's now making its way out of Marion and Washington counties. So for those of you, by the way, in Marion County, you're basically in the clear as of right now. Still focused on that very eastern portion of Washington County, and this tornado warning goes until 7:15 a.m. These storms really have the help of that area of low pressure spinning things around a little bit more in our region. And we also have that warm front that has been tracking basically parallel to as the morning has really gone on. So this is why we keep getting these tornado warnings. Thankfully, we haven't gotten any reports of any damage, which is certainly some good news on a morning like this, because we don't want anybody to get hurt. We don't want anyone to lose anything. We've been through so much in our area with tornadoes like this and damaging winds like this. So it kind of hurts your heart to have everybody dealing with anything like that. And so we're recovering from things like that. So it's good that we haven't gotten any reports so far to start off the day. Now, keep in mind, in terms of the rest of the day, we're really just talking about some more of those heavy rain, more of some of that small hail and some gusty winds here and there. But in terms of our severe threat, that really should drop off as we head into the next half an hour across wave country, to be more specific, as that low pushes a little bit further to the east. I cannot rule out 1 or 2 severe warnings later on today, but really just watching for that isolated tornado threat this morning. And here's what we got going on right now. So it looks like this is now observed. This has now been upgraded to an observed tornado pushing just to the south of Deep Creek. Not surprising with what we got going on right there with that kind of rotation showing up on the satellite and the radar as of this moment. So this is certainly the strongest storm that I've seen on the radar to start off the day. So we're going to be keeping an eye on this and anything else that may pop throughout the rest of the morning. But this is now making its way out of wave country. It is now making its way closer to the Perryville area, the Dixville area. So if you know anyone in those spots, we're going to be watching it as well, especially with the fact that it is observed. I'm going to hang on with it a little bit longer to just keep an eye on it as it moves out of our region, because I know so many people have friends and family that may be in those areas, and we know that some of you in these areas can still get our station. So I'd rather be safe and make sure that we are watching it. So it does look like it's a confirmed tornado on the ground moving towards Perryville, south of Harrodsburg, pushing towards the Dansville and Junction City areas. We are continuing to keep an eye on this as it moves out of our exact coverage area, but I still want to stay with it, because with a confirmed tornado on the ground, any help that we can get to make sure that anyone is safe is anything that we can do. So it's now moving out of Deep Creek. So for those of you now in Washington County in Kentucky, you are in the clear, but this is now continuing to track towards Perryville, Dixville, Atoka, Harrodsburg. We've had, unfortunately, recently, so many tornadoes and damage in our area. So this is why I just want to stay with this a little bit longer to make sure we're keeping an eye and helping out everyone as much as we can. So for those of you in Washington County, Kentucky, you are now in the clear. We are now watching very closely the rest of the Danville area over towards Junction City, Harrisburg, because this rotation is substantial. It's now a confirmed tornado on the ground. This is towards Deep Creek, Dixville, Perryville. This is just to the north of 150 in that area that we have this confirmed tornado on the ground. And I'm just going to switch over to see what the debris is showing up. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of something there. which is definitely a little bit disheartening to see. So we'll be watching this tornado as it pushes further to the east as of right now. So this is the only severe thunderstorm warning, tornado warning that we have in our region as of this moment. Notice that it's just this mass of rain across most of our area, seeing more of that heavy rain, even moving towards Lexington right now. I know some of you travel to Lexington or Frankfurt for work, and they're seeing heavy rain there. We've seen a number of issues in terms of the roads as of right now in terms of crashes as well. Make sure you have that Wave weather app, because we'll be watching that as well for the morning hours. So here's what we got going on in terms of this tornado warning. It is now technically out of Washington County, Kentucky. We still are seeing some pretty heavy rain and some strong wind gusts moving through Springfield as of right now, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. And I know some of you who, I know some of you in that Dixville, Perryville area are able to watch us here on Wave. So I'm going to stay with this to make sure you're safe, especially with it now being confirmed and an observed tornado on the ground. This is just north of 150. So if anyone is in the Dixville area, call them now. Make sure they're in their safe space. Also, for that, anyone who typically travels on 68 towards Harrisburg or from Harrisburg or 152, these are the spots where you want to make sure that you are in your safe space right now. That rotation is incredibly impressive. We've gotten that report that is confirmed and observed tornado as well. Our news team is now making calls to see if we get any reports of anything of what kind of damage we're getting in that area. So we know that some of you in the Perryville area do watch us here on Wave, so I want to make sure I stay with this for you so you can stay as safe as possible. Also continuing to keep an eye on anyone traveling on 1920, 68, if you're in Atoka, in Davis Hill, if you're towards Caldwell Manor, if you're towards Harrodsburg, please get in your safe space as of right now with this confirmed tornado on the ground. We are otherwise dealing with no issues in most of the region. This is the only tornado warning, and it's been one thunderstorm, by the way. We've been tracking this storm since it was in Hart County. So we've been watching this get weaker and stronger and weaker and stronger and bouncing up and down over the past basically 2 hours at this point. So this is why we had a number of tornado warnings, and until now we haven't gotten any reports of any issues. But now this is a confirmed tornado that is moving through this particular area, so we'll be keeping an eye on it for just a little longer, especially with what's going on. So I'm going to stay on this for about another 5 minutes or so, and then I'm going to hand off to the folks over at WKYT, our sister station, as they will continue to keep an eye on this for you. So if viewers, if you're in those areas and you want to continue to track it, you can head over to our sister station, tune over to our sister station, WKYT. They are going to be streaming, and they're going to be on air as well. Their meteorologists are great, and they'll also be watching this storm as it pushes further to the east. So we have that tornado warning once again now for Boyle and Mercer counties. This is an observed tornado. So typically we don't stay on for tornadoes just outside of our coverage area, but this is in between, and we want to make sure that we are keeping everyone as safe as possible, of course. So the past couple of weeks, we've had a number of tornadoes touch down and cause damage across parts of Kentucky, and we want to make sure that every part of the Commonwealth can stay as safe as possible. So I'm going to stay with it just a little bit longer. I'm going to continue to keep an eye on that rotation as well, embedded within this storm. News crews continue to try to get some calls out. Of course, as of right now, they haven't gotten any reports of anything going on so far, but this, per the National Weather Service, is a confirmed tornado on the ground moving through portions of Boyle and Mercer counties. So this is why that tornado warning continues to go through. So I'm going to stay with this for about 2 more minutes. And then for those of you who are in this particular area, our sister station, WKYT, they are on air, they are watching it, and we're going to hand it off to them in terms of that coverage. So, of course, they have now updated the tornado warning. And I'm going to pop that up for you once again as we continue to watch Boyle and Mercer counties. This tornado warning goes until 7:15 a.m. On top of course, that potential for tornado, and we now have a confirmed tornado in this area, we also are watching 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and some small hail along with heavy rain. So far, we've gotten one report from Wave Country of damage, and that has been a tree down in Marion County, and that is currently getting removed. So that's so far in Wave Country the only damage that we've had confirmed so far. Of course, we will still be calling to get updates as the morning continues. But as of right now, we're still keeping an eye on this tornado warning. For those of you in Boyle and Mercer counties in Wave Country, you're in the clear. You're just watching the heavy rain and the impacts that can have as the morning goes along. Other than that, we are just going to be watching, of course, more of these scattered showers and thunderstorms as we continue throughout the rest of the morning with this area of low pressure that is moving through and past the Ohio Valley. So as of right now, still just watching this one tornado warning for those of you in Boyle and Mercer counties in Wave Country. We're in the clear as of right now.